I was fortunate to meet Bev Hurley, the chair of the Institute of Economic Development, the UK's leading independent body for economic and regeneration professionals. And I met her just before she launched her Opus research into social value in the construction sector. Since then, she has done more of our excellent work, and we, of course, have launched our Conscious Business Academy and our shows. So it seemed exactly the right time to ask Bev if I could revisit her and continue the story of her social value mission. Welcome back to the BVTV network, Bev Hurley.
Thank you very much, Malcolm. It's my great pleasure to be with you again today. In the circumstances we find ourselves now, pretty much the same as they were then, as far as COVID. So we're all heading back to lockdown. Some things aren't changing quickly enough, are they?
No. I would have hoped by now we could have done a face-to-face interview, but that's not happening. You and Newmarket, me up in Northumberland. Bev, after our first interview, we had a huge response from businesses keen to pursue how they could show their social value. I have to say, a number wanted to do it for commercial reasons rather than altruistic, but never mind, they have to start somewhere. You've now firmly launched your report and finished some other work. So what's the outcome so far?
So I'll start off with the first bit. And as a businesswoman, I absolutely understand the commercial self-interest behind social value. To me, it's a fantastic opportunity for businesses to be able to differentiate themselves from their competition. You know, if you can get social value delivery right, with some innovation and some flair and some outcomes, not just bums on seats, then this is a great opportunity for you to score those extra points. And with, you know, social value procurement now being between 5 and 25% of tenders, particularly in the construction industry, this is a great opportunity that businesses can seize to get profitable contracts, to help them grow and create the jobs that we all need. So yeah, absolutely a commercial imperative to get acts together on this score. And you asked what's happened since launch. Well, we've had a lot of press coverage. I found myself as a cover girl for the first time in my career, better late than never, on an in-depth article for The Planner, which was great, and lots of other press as well. We've had lots of people have reached out to us. So we're engaged now with the UK Green Business Council, who are running a sort of consultation to try and arrive at a definition of social value, which we fed into. I've done some webinars for Constructing Excellence and the Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy. We're talking to the CBI about stuff. And connected with the Construction Leadership Council. We've got some scoping sessions for the proposed Centre of Excellence, which are coming up, and some CPD in community engagement. So there's a lot of stuff going on, partly because I'm not one of these people who think, well, we'll just do a report and then it sits on the shelf. To me, it's always about the execution. So at the end, if you want, or I'll mention our web address, people can see everything that's going on there. The more the merrier, everybody's welcome.
Yeah. And we've got obviously the web address behind me on the screen there. And I applaud all the work you've done, because, you know, we've been pushing it out as the excellent video you kindly did with us. But what was really interesting, I think, is that it's spreading into other sectors. So only yesterday, Vodafone announced that they were bringing in social value within the whole of the supply chain, and again, up to 20% of the points that they'll be rewarding. So you've got a big movement going here, Bev. Well done. So do you think many businesses in the construction sector have actively changed, though, their perception of social value and their understanding of its value?
I think we're on a bit of a collective journey, and obviously right now, you know, COVID is got to be the utmost priority, and then Brexit for a lot of companies. So it's going to take time to change perceptions and activities, and nobody ever does it, you know, on their own. It's all about joining up the dots and working collaboratively. So I do think we are definitely seeing a move away from kind of tick box outputs to a proper focus on impacts and outcomes, which is a really important driver, I think. And we know that we need to get much better at monitoring and evaluating and sharing what works, which actually is why one of the reasons why we started that research in the first place, because we simply don't really know what good looks like. You know, we are in this bit of a vacuum. So how can we all collectively up our games without finding those real kind of beacons and understanding what good looks like? So I hope very much that the IED and its activities and its partnering will help bring about this sea change in attitudes, particularly as we've seen so much of it at the individual level during COVID, helping people that need help. It would be great if that swells into the business community as well. And, you know, I thought it was challenging enough in the construction sector, but apparently it's way ahead of some sectors, some other sectors of the UK economy. So if we can get it right and address some of these problems within construction, then maybe we can share all that with other industry sectors to help roll it out.
Yeah, I do think, though, as I've said to you beforehand, the groundswell you've created is, I can feel it, and I've been working with supply chains for 20 odd years now, and suddenly it's of the moment, and quite rightly. Now, under our conscious business umbrella, we have the conscious supplier, which is slowly working. But I have to say that other issues, as you said before, COVID-19, Brexit and the recession, seems to be holding leaders back from showing true interest in social value. So what do you say to those leaders?
I share their pain.
Yes.
Leadership in terms of crisis is challenging, especially in the small and medium-sized enterprise community, you know, 5.7 small businesses in the UK, because it's lonely at the top. You know, you may be exhausted and challenged and stressed and so on, but you can't transmit that to your workforce. You have to deal with the risks and mitigate them as best you can, and all those 101 things that arise in terms of crisis. And I think it is challenging to find brain space to do this conscious thinking. Having said that, quite a few of our clients in my day job have come and said, you know what, if COVID hadn't enforced this quiet time on us, we would never have changed our mindset. We would never have pivoted our businesses because we're too busy doing the doing. So yes, it's been awful, but for some businesses, it's been a time to take stock and really think about not just their business, but about their values as a business. So yeah, we all have these priorities to balance, but survival and resilience and growth is fueled by winning new business. And so it comes, kind of that loop comes back to social value. If you do business in a good way and you are giving something back, that will help you weather the crisis. You know, that they're very closely interlinked, these two things, the commercial imperative and the moral imperative of doing good business, in my view, anyway.
Yeah, I quite agree with you. And that moral maze question comes out. And it was interesting, one conversation I had with a leader who started to say, well, you know, I'm now getting it and understanding that if I want to have a business that is part of the future, I need to change. I need to be making these changes. And it is now, I'm now starting to understand that purpose is important. And another one said to me as well, let's get rid of some of that old rhetoric, such as it's a battle, we're on a war game. Let's work together, let's collaborate. That's exciting, isn't it?
Yep. And I think we've seen a lot of that because businesses have been forced to be collaborative and more open, because they need help, you know, from different things, and you forge new partnerships and so on. So yes, if we can move a bit away from the Darwinian nature of capitalism, something that is a little bit more collaborative and open and conscious, to use your phrase, is a really good word. I think, yes, let's hope that journey continues.
Now, last time we talked about your desire and one of the outcomes of your report to create this social value centre for excellence. I think it's a really exciting idea. What's the progress on it, or is it early days?
It's early days. There are about 16 centres in existence that broadly have something to do with the construction industry. None of them focusing on social value, obviously, tend to be more technical about modern construction and so on. But I'm really excited about the potential for the Centre of Excellence to bring everything to do with social value and construction under one roof, working with whoever it is. You know, I'm absolutely certain this is the right way to go ahead. And then you can put a laser focus just on that. And address the different issues. So the first thing we're doing is we've set up 3 discussion roundtables, open to anybody who wants to feed in to the 5 burning questions for me, which are, what should it do? What are the priorities? How it should do them? How will it be paid for? And what does success look like? So quite really open questions, and I hope we'll have lots and lots of discussion. So we're limiting the numbers for each of these roundtables. The first one's on Thursday at 2:00. You can sign up at the IED website. Malcolm, come in and oh no, you can't. That one's full already. So you'll have to join the November one, but they're all up on the site. So having done that, then I think we will go back to all the people that contributed to the research and the people we've met since and say, this is kind of the straw man. Do you want to add any more to it? And after that, we then take it to government.
Brilliant.
Hopefully with the backing both of our membership and the construction industry.
Yeah, you can be certain that with our thousands of viewers and listeners, we'll be supporting you as much as we can. Now, this may seem like I'm repeating a question, but sometimes tell them and tell them and tell them again is quite important. Yeah. In these challenging times with much uncertainty ahead, many construction companies are certainly struggling to simply stay afloat, especially those lower down the supply chain. There's often an attitude of, I haven't got time for that, when I talk to them about compliance and social value. But they need to take time for that, don't they? What's your thoughts here?
Absolutely do. You said it there, Malcolm, I think. So if anything, the news out of the government, you know, with the build agenda, the changes to the planning regime, you know, construction is only going to grow as a sector in the UK economy. Now, for any business, that's a nice place to be, right? But it's true, margins are really, really tight at all levels there. And particularly as you go down the supply chain, it can be really, really tough. So it kind of loops back to the first thing is, if by showing how you are differentiated from Joe Blogs over here, I'm so sorry, that was my email going in. Yeah, if you can show how your value in a supply chain is worth more than Joe Bloggs' value in a supply chain, or Jane Smith's value in a supply chain, that will get you contracts. Because sometimes, you know, there are only so many ways to lay bricks or build things. I'm being very simplistic. Of course, there are lots of ways, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. And it's all about what extra value can you bring. So if doing social value and conveying that value really clearly in your tenders and on your websites, if that means the difference between winning and losing a supply chain contract, why would you not do it? I mean, leaving aside the moral imperative, which, you know, people can agree or disagree with that. It's all about translating actually what businesses often do. You know, people often volunteer, mentor, do things for their communities, but they don't kind of equate that to social value, so they can't leverage what a lot of them are already doing. And of course, it's really hard for small businesses to break into supply chains. You know, they tend to be quite entrenched in the construction industry. So you need to be able to get that sort of sword, right? The sword of social value, and wield it effectively.
Yeah,
I just invented that, sword of social value.
I love that one. I love that one. This is copyright to us, by the way, this interview.
Yes, absolutely.
But what really is exciting, I think, for those people who want to break into the supply chain is that COVID, or the pandemic, or whatever you call it, has caused people to be rethinking their supply chains. So to have them stretched abroad, they're buying more local. So great opportunity. Now, look, you're so well immersed in social value in construction. You must have come across some, what I call lighthouse companies, those aiming to be beacons of excellence. Have you been impressed by many?
It's a really interesting question. So we started our research with the aim of finding great social value practice to share across the IED membership. You know, after all, it's been quite a few years now since the Social Value Act. But to tell you the truth, we don't really know what good looks like, partly because so much contracted social value isn't formally measured and evaluated or captured and then shared. So there's no sort of benchmarks. There are lots of different tools and methodologies for, you know, doing that monetization exercise and translating it. There's no procurement memory of which suppliers have a great track record in delivering what they say they're going to deliver. So it's really hard because you can't compare apples with apples. You know, there might be a banana up here and a melon down there. It's like, you know, and that's one of the things I would like the centre to do, to try to show, okay, for this sort of spend in that sort of project, these were the outcomes that were captured and measured by this. Right, now let's take example 2, example 3, example 4. Then I think it would start to become clearer, A, what the sort of benchmarks are, and B, who are the companies that are really, you know, nailing it. So this was a first pass. I'm sure there are lighthouse companies out there that evidence everything beautifully and really do deliver. And hopefully I'll come across them, and then I'll ring you up, Malcolm, and say, right, I've got some lighthouse companies I can share with you. At the moment, it's just too fragmented. I think that was our conclusion, really.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll look forward to that call, Bev, because that means that everything you're doing is starting to work. It may just stay with the first thing, though, getting the attitude right before they actually come into actual examples. Yeah. Now, I said in my opening piece that the IED, Institute of Economic Development, of which you're chair, is the leading independent body for economic and regeneration professionals. Why do you see it important at the Institute that you create this momentum around social value?
So inclusive growth, which I guess is the sort of bucket within which social value sits, is all about creating opportunity for all segments of the population in all places. So you achieve more prosperity and greater and fairer equity in the outcomes of things. So the levelling up agenda that everybody talks about is because the old-fashioned economic growth model, so that wealth, if you focus on growth, and wealth will trickle down to disadvantaged areas and individuals, that simply doesn't work. It doesn't trickle down, which means that there is increasing inequality. And it's pretty entrenched in the UK. We're one of the most unequal countries in the whole of the developed world on pretty much any measure you want to look, really, whether that's, you know, poverty, housing, mobility, education, the list goes on. And it's getting worse. So in terms of economic development, you have the economy part, but you also have the well-being of the people part. And those two things you cannot separate. They're all economic development. So that's why I think the IED, obviously it's our daily bread, and also because we're independent, so we're not selling anything. We're here just coming in from outside. And sometimes I think having that light shone on by somebody outside of you can be helpful in inducing change, because we collectively are spending a lot of government money, central government, construction spend, local government. It's huge amounts of taxpayers' money. And therefore, as economic development professionals, we're duty bound to get the best value from that spend, all of us collectively. So yeah, I think it's right at the heart of what we do.
Excellent. Yes. Yeah, I get that entirely. Bev, wearing my conscious business hat, I have a concern that too many construction companies and businesses in other sectors will see social value as something they need to do in order to trade and win contracts, as opposed to something they want to do as part of their consciousness. Does the right change really start at the top, or do you think change will rise from within the people of the business, especially new and younger talent?
Yes, I think obviously it's much better if you have the people, the chief exec, the people on the board, senior management teams, really they have to get this with their heart and their soul as well as their bottom line, so that they can champion it and drive it through. Because if it's only happening at one level in the organization, it's going to be lip service. But more and more often, I'm seeing change also being driven from the bottom up, particularly with the younger generation, lots of environmental awareness, going on with Greta and that movement, and employees saying, do you know what? Well, before COVID, I've got some choices about who I work for, and I want to work for a responsible, moral business. And actually, some of the tier ones who we interviewed, when asked their reasons for doing it, almost all of them said, this will enable us to choose the brightest, best, most committed people because it's a good thing. So yes, I think we are seeing changes at the top and being stimulated by greater awareness of disadvantage generally. And I think even shareholders need to get this. At the very basic level, you could treat the cost of doing social value activities as a cost of sale. And frankly, if you're going to spend, £100,000 of actual money delivering £400,000 of social value, and that means you get a contract of 10 million with a 5% profit margin, happy days.
Yeah.
So there are so many drivers for this change that all seem to be coming around now, and I think COVID is accelerating those. That yes, ideally leadership at the top, a fully committed team, and for the larger companies, shareholders that get it. That's the perfect ideal. So maybe we'll find companies that demonstrate that as well. Which will be great.
Bev, as usual, you speak so much common sense. So don't forget, everybody, behind me, the URL of IED, pop along there. Bev, I like to give all my guests 3 wishes. Now, if I was to give you 3 wishes as to why organizations should embed social value, what would those 3 wishes be?
Well, last time you asked me, Malcolm, you only gave me 1, and I said, I want 3. So maybe I engendered some change in you. Okay, so firstly, I think I would wish that all businesses make some kind of contribution according to their means to those less well off than themselves, businesses or individuals, to just get that community spirit within business and embed it. We're all in this together, as somebody once said. It's going to take all of us to get out of it. So if it's not you and me, who is it going to be? Secondly, I wish that the government, when I ask them, will say yes to funding the Centre of Excellence with sufficient resource to enable it to actually do something. And thirdly, I wish that collectively we start to procure and deliver social value that is focused on making a positive impact to people's lives, that they themselves have an opportunity to co-create, that it's not just done to them, that their voices are heard, so that we get away from this tick box attitude. So those are my three. How about that?
Brilliant. Absolutely. Bev Hurley of IED, as always, inspiring to listen to you. Now, I need to get your commitment here. Can we come back again in the future and see how your excellent work is progressing?
Of course, Malcolm. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and your listeners. And if anybody wants to reach out directly, come along to any of our sessions, please do. My door is always open. It might take a while for me to answer it, but my door is firmly open. So thank you very much again for the opportunity.